So today is the last in a series that I've been doing called Gathering in the Light. And this series has really been about preparing ourselves for 2025 and the demands that might make on us all. This is very cold at the moment, and this is a time in winter where often many people are at their lowest ebb. And tomorrow is a very auspicious day. It's actually called Blue Monday tomorrow. And it's often dubbed the most depressing day of the year. Falling on the third Monday in January. This year it falls on January the 20th, 2025. So we are approaching the most depressing day of the year. And this is something that we've been preparing for really since the beginning of December. Now, this is previously on now. So the idea of the theme, Gathering in the Light, was really to both gather ourselves in the light that comes from within, and also gather those around us who we feel might benefit from being exposed to that divine light that's within us. And the way that we looked at the first week, we looked at the idea, we were talking about light here, that light was in fact everywhere. That what we think of as being darkness is really just light that we cannot see. Because the light we see is really electromagnetic radiation with wavelengths between 380 and 750. That's what we can see. But there are other electromagnetic radiations between things like infrared, ultraviolet radiation, radio waves, X-rays, and gamma rays that all have the principles of light, but we can't see them. And the fact is that light is all around us, and darkness, therefore, is actually a relative term that has no existence in reality. We also talked about the possibility of manifesting that divine light that's within us all, and the effect that we can have when the presence of the divine light that's within us all is experienced by those around us. And, we might think, it doesn't really make any difference. But that sort of presence of that light has been manifest all the way through history. And, we can see specific times when that light has come through in the presence of great saints that really change things. Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. And in modern times, people like Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King, whose day it is tomorrow as well. That's a time when that light that comes within us all has come out and affected those around us. So we looked at that. And in the second week, we spoke of really the hope that resides within us, that small spark, that still small voice, the spring of hope that is within each of us individually, and that really it's up to us to keep that hope alive and to share that hope with others so that we can also gather them in that light. And we then spoke about the surrender that's required to serve the world, letting go of our opinions and attitudes as to what the world will bring us so that we can be vessels for that light to come through us. In the fourth week, we spoke about the idea of the writing on the wall, what the writing on the wall is at the moment, and how we can respond to that. Will we be willing to stand up for those that might be in need? How far are we prepared to go? What would we be willing to put at risk? Every generation has these questions, whether it be the Vietnam War or the Golden Generation or the First World War. It happens again and again, and there is a demand in society for sacrifice. not hardship, sacrifice. The word is sacrificio, a sacred act, which is really acting in conjunction with the divine. Then we looked at the flow of life, the way that life guides us into the path that we need to be on, that path opens in front of us. And I've used before, but that lovely quote from Thomas Merton that describes that flow of life. Merton says, God utters me like a word containing a partial thought of himself. A word will never be able to comprehend the voice that utters it. But if I'm true to the concept that God utters in me, if I'm true to the thought of him that I am meant to embody, I shall be full of his actuality and find him everywhere in myself. I will find myself nowhere. I shall be lost in him. That is, I shall find myself. I shall be saved. That's a lovely description of what it is to live in that flow. And then last week we looked at the need to pay attention to what comes into our lives, what we're being given as the raw materials to make a difference, whether that be people or films or books or poems, anything that can help us to help others. And if any of that interests you and you haven't heard it, if you just in front of you in the seats, the red card there is you'll be able to find either the podcast, which just is the talk, or on YouTube there are the different podcasts as well, and the messages, and you'll find out how to do that there. And if you want to be on our mailing list, the blue card is the one in front of you as well. So it's been a time of preparation, and with Blue Monday coming tomorrow, it's really time to put that preparation into work. No matter how depressed we might feel, we have to remember that we ourselves represent that light to those around us. We might not think they're looking at us, but really, when someone looks at us, we're representing an aspect of humanity. No matter how, whatever is going on, we're asked to embody it, both to ourselves and to those we live with. We gather the light from within ourselves, and then we gather those around to share that. And we have that responsibility. But make no mistake, it's really up to us to be that light in our own lives. If we're looking for light and hope to break from elsewhere, something that will come and help the situation, then we're looking in the wrong place. Our consolation will not come from outside. And if we look there, we'll only be disappointed and left feeling bereft. The light comes within, and it's always done so. That light, that little hope within us, is what has shaped humanity as our consciousness has developed over the last 200,000 years. That's what's brought us to this level of civilization that we're at the moment. And it will continue to shape us over the next period of time. Now, you may think I'm just making it up, this idea of Blue Monday, but there is actually a formula for Blue Monday, and I put it on your service sheets. Now, the formula for Blue Monday, there we are, W plus large D minus little d times T to the power of Q divided by M times N to the power of A, where W is the weather, D is debt, and little d is your monthly salary or pension. T is the time since Christmas. Q is the time since the failure of New Year's resolutions. M is low motivational levels. And NA is the feeling of the need to take action. And the most important, of course, is NA, the feeling of the need to take action. And I think that for a lot of us, we will have that feeling tomorrow. And the action that we'll need to take will come to us, I think, very naturally. It might be the way we carry ourselves in front of our friends, our family, our colleagues. It might be about what we decide to watch on television or not watch on television. It might be how we respond to others who might feel also tomorrow depressed and down. Blue Monday tomorrow is the day when we have to start putting everything into action. And it's the day when we have to start deciding really what we're personally willing to do. How much are we willing to, as I've spoken to before, inconvenience ourselves for the sake of what might be needed to done to support others in our society, and how might that mean changing the way that we do things in our lives. The feelings from Blue Monday may come to us right away. We might feel it throughout the day. How we begin to respond will set the tone for how we will respond to this for the rest of the year. But I believe this gives us a unique opportunity to be our best selves. The very challenge of something like Blue Monday challenges us to manifest what we've always wondered whether or not we had within ourselves. I always remember that wonderful quote, which again I use the same quotes, all the time, but it's really relevant. That wonderful quote from Garshan Rinpoche, who spent some time in prison, and he said, "The extent of your realization, in other words, the extent of your spiritual development, will be known only when you encounter difficult circumstances. You'll not know the extent of your realizations when things are going well. When you find yourself in a troublesome situation, when you're in great pain, when an intense emotion arises, only then will you know where you're at with your spiritual practice." And we should remember that tomorrow on Blue Monday, when the world seems most depressing. It tells us how we're doing in our practice, and it enables us to go back to our practice in the knowledge that there is more work to do. And that's where the work happens. Because as I said too late, and I always love this, it's never too late to become the person that you might have been. It's never too late to become the person that you might have been. And the backdrop of Blue Monday gives us the perfect opportunity for us to discover that person in a time when others, like ourselves, are going to be suffering. We don't know the character of the challenge that will be coming to us. It might be just supporting our family around us, or it might be more than that. But if you've ever thought that there's not been a time when you've had to face a challenge and been tested, well, now a lot of us are going to get the opportunity. And none of us want to be found teakle, as in meeny, teakle, parsin, which was the writing on the wall. Meeny, teakle, parsin. And teakle means having been weighed in the balance and found wanting. That was the king. He had that written of him, and he's been found in the balance, and he lost his kingdom and stuff like that. But we do not want to be found having weighed in the balance and found wanting. And Blue Monday will give us the perfect opportunity to weigh ourselves in the balance and see how we do. But it's only the beginning. How we respond to tomorrow will indicate how we might respond to the rest of the year and other challenges that might come to us. The work that we've been doing here has been one of preparation for this moment. And Monday will give us a chance to see how we actually do when the time comes. And from this moment on, it's going to be learning on the job. So the next course that I'm going to be doing, starting next week, will be on the theme of how to be good. Now, if you look at your service sheet on the back, you'll see the little leaflet for that. And I think good is a really interesting word. And how to be good gives us an opportunity to look at how to respond to all circumstances from a place of good. Krishnamurti, the guru, famously said, deeply, humanity is craving for a good society. Deeply, humanity is craving for a good society. And I think that's something to bear in mind, that despite what people may say or shout, deeply, humanity is craving for a good society. And what each of us has to offer here is a glimpse of how that good society might be brought about. You know, we might not be able to imagine it or put it into words, but that lovely verse from Zechariah, you will not succeed by your own strength or by your own power, but only by my Spirit. You know, we don't have to work it out ourselves. We just have to get out of the way and allow that love to come through us and affect those who are around us. And then the path will reveal itself, and we'll have an opportunity to choose what to do. Blue Monday is a unique challenge because it seems that we're in the darkest place. But as I said, in the very first of those talks, there is no such thing as actual darkness. Darkness is really the light that we cannot see. It's really that aspect of light that we're not aware of. All the ultramagnetic radiation, stuff like that. So light, you know, it's a relative term that has no existence in reality, and we have to remember that. The world is infused by light, and we just have to make that light visible to those around us. Just doing that will give them hope and will enable them in turn to find the light within themselves and to share that with others. It's in this way that we gather the light. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And you can hear that, you know, the no darkness bit within that. We have to be the light in the world when it seems to be at its darkest points. And we now have a chance to let others see that light shine within us. You know, he said, I am the light of the world, and there are 7 I ams in the Bible. Jesus said, I am the. He said, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. And it's our challenge to find those same characteristics in our own sense of who we are, in our own I ams, and to manifest that character to those around us, to give them hope, to be the bread for others, to be the light, to be a door, to be a good shepherd, to be the resurrection and the life, to be the way, the truth, and the life, and to be the true vine. That will be our challenge for us this year. So the purpose of having music in our service is to set the tone for what we're doing and to carry us forward in our own emotions and our consciousness to where we might want to go. And I think that was a perfect example of you really capturing the tone and setting that. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. So we always have an opportunity in our services to have a conversation, for you to either come back at me at something that I've said or share an experience or just ask a question or whatever it is. And sometimes we just have silence. No one does that. But would anybody like to say anything at all? Yes, Sarah. Thank you.
I'm not going to be able to articulate it the best that I heard it, but I read or heard something in the last few years that it's only the privileged people who can really be so down and out about the world, because the not so privileged people are just trying to survive every day and don't even have time to think about that.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you can respond to that in light of Martin Luther King and our next administration and just the state of the world. No small task.
Yes. Well, we are privileged people here. You're absolutely right. We live in a fantastic space, and we have the opportunity to be able to come along and noodle on a Sunday and do what we want to do and ski and things like that. And we can pontificate about the way the world is, but we are not faced with that up against the grindstone. We don't have that. And, it makes it very difficult on one level, for people to think about anything than just getting the next meal on the table and all that sort of business. And, we a lot of us, myself included, just, we live in our heads a lot of the time. We don't like things, and we do like things, and we like to say that we like things, and we like to say we don't. And we think the world is like this. But if you live in the middle of Chicago, it's not like this. And, you're faced with a dysfunctionality all the time about when the next meal is coming and who's going to come through your door and how you're going to not make sure things are stolen and things like that. And it's a totally different situation in that. And we get faced with that reality when things don't go the way we think they should go. When things, the society doesn't go. Why is it not going in that? Life should be unfolding in the way that we want it to unfold, and we should see consciousness developing in the way that we talk about it. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people just, are not coping and are not going to cope unless something else happens. And, I interviewed Ilya Delio, and I thank you very much for your note on that, Ilya Delio, yesterday. And if you go to the aspenwisdom.org, which is our Wisdom from the Top of the World page, there's a 10-minute interview with Ilya about how she feels about the next administration and how it relates to... She talks about the evolution of consciousness, and I thought it would be interesting to ask her how she felt about it. And she was quite clear that something needed to change. There needed to be something that happens. If you're interested, do go and watch that. We'll try and put it out in different sorts of ways. But as you can hear, I don't have an answer because I am privileged. I have a nice life, and I don't get faced with those particular problems. I just get faced with my own disappointment. That's what I end up with, my own disappointment, my own little blue Monday, and where I witter on about it. But I'm not in that situation, and I think we have to realize that how privileged we all are. And when we feel disappointed about things, we're disappointed from that position of privilege, and we have to be prepared to, do what's necessary when it starts to come in our direction. And I think it will start to come in our direction. And I think that we have to prepare ourselves for maybe doing things that, we don't want to necessarily do. And I think that's how we should be thinking about it at the moment, how we do that. And thank you so much for bringing that up. We are. So thank you for that. Somebody else. Yes, I'll come to you, Ward. I'm going to come to Diane first.
I love the formula for Blue Monday, and I've been trying to do this New Year's resolution. It's January 19th, and I still haven't done it. But to not watch the news, start my day with the news, and not eat my breakfast watching the news.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to it. And I have so many other things I want to do, and this has really spurred me on to gird my loins and tomorrow not watch the news first thing in the morning.
Yes. Yes, I think I'll be not watching the news tomorrow as well, actually. I think it's a very, very interesting idea. Thank you, Dan. That's lovely. Yes, Ward. Do you want to pass it on to Ward? Yeah.
That last comment reminded me of Jackson Brown, the Daily Blues. It's not the Daily News. But my quote that I wanted, in just food for thought, Thomas Jefferson said, "People get the government they deserve."
Yes. Thank you. I think I've had a couple of texts from away. So, see. John Wampler from Texas says, celebration for the outgoing president and hopefulness for the new one. And also for more than half our population, Blue Monday will be a day of celebration for the outgoing president. That's what he says. So that's John. Thank you, John, for really appreciate that. I hope you and Susan are doing well. Susan's just recovering from a knee replacement. And yes, Andy, thank you.
So there is that quote, with privilege comes great responsibility. And I think that's really true. And, I quoted Teddy Roosevelt last weekend, and there's someone who did come from great privilege, and he felt it was absolutely his responsibility to help those less fortunate than he was. And, fit in with the Good Samaritan theme that you had last week, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. In England, I don't know if you have this in America, we have this phrase, clogs to clogs in 3 generations. Do you have that here? And, sorry? Sorry?
Is it like the short sleeves to short sleeves?
Yeah, we have clogs to clogs. It just shows you. And, really, what's interesting about that is that all of us, our families, have worked so hard to get to the point where we are in a position of privilege. And when you get to that position, you then have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to advance things? Or are you going to sit back and, smoke that cigar and watch that game and just hope that nothing comes to disturb you so you can just enjoy the privilege that you've got? And that takes you from clogs to clogs in 3 generations. It's when you decide that you are going to, now we're in that situation of privilege where we do have disposable time, when we're not faced with it, are we going to advance our society? Are we going to make a difference? Are we going to take that capital? And the capital is not just money. It's the capital of the ability to act. That we all have that. All of us have that because we're in this privileged situation. Are we going to make use of that? Are we going to actually do something? Or are we just going to enjoy the privilege and, watch the game and drink the beer or whatever it is? So I think we are faced with that in our lives. Thank you, Andy. Yes, I'm going to come to you next. Thank you so much. Kelly. Morning.
Good morning. I've really carried with me one of your earlier sermons from a few weeks ago where you talked about sanctuary.
Yeah.
And, so I think about what the I am statements that you said today and thinking about, what is our I am statement? And I really thought about, how am I a sanctuary? How do I create sanctuary? How do I act as sanctuary in my relationships in life? And I think it really ties to sort of that action component of, am I being a sanctuary in, for people or for the things I stand for? So that just still carries with me through the sermon that you gave today.
Thank you. Yeah. Did you want to add something to that?
There's a beautiful song of all those words.
Yeah, there's a song. What's the song?
You basically said all the words of a song. It's called Will You... It's just called Sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like a mantra. Anyway, we could try to sing it.
It's interesting. I mean, the church has always been a place of sanctuary. And I don't know if you remember the UU Church in Glenwood Springs actually opened its doors. Do you remember the Venezuelan people that came and weren't able to find anywhere to be? And they had them, actually being in their church and things like that. And, there's a possibility that things like that we may be confronted with that. I'm not sure. I did say this at the time, but in England we had a couple of examples of where that did happen. Once was when Idi Amin threw out the Ugandan Asians, and they all came to England in planes. And actually, families opened their doors. And I can remember we had a Ugandan Asian living with us for 3 or 4 months. And individuals took that on. And we also had that in England as well. It happened when the Ukraine crisis happened. And the government actually gave money for people to look after people who are refugees from Ukraine. You could apply, get a refugee, and be paid sort of £100 a week or something like that to look after them. So I think sanctuary is an interesting thing that we have to be aware of. Yeah. Anybody else like to say anything?